Welcome to Wired to Hunt's Whitetail How-tos, where we provide a step-by-step tutorial for one important deer hunting task.
There are really three considerations when it comes to choosing the right peep sight for you. The first is your aiming style. The second is the peep sight style, the design of the peep sight. And the third is the size of the peep sight aperture. When it comes to aiming style, there are still bow hunters that fall into two factions. One faction that you find a little bit more out west and you find maybe a little bit more old school is to center an individual pin and aim that versus using the whole sight ring on your sight. That'll affect the size of the peep sight you choose. Most people who are going into the whitetail woods are going to be thinking, I'm going to aim by centering my aperture in my peep sight. So think about that a little bit. The next thing is the peep style. If you've been bow hunting a long time, you probably kind of can think back and think through the evolution of peep sights. We've gotten bigger apertures. We've gone away from the rubber alignment tube. Stand next to somebody who shoots with that rubber tube on there and you'll hear how loud it is. Really kind of an unnecessary thing these days with modern string material. Training a peep sight to come back to your eye the way you need it to is not a big deal. There's a reason that this peep sight style is the most popular. It just works. But probably the biggest consideration that you're gonna wanna make, the size of the peep sight aperture. It's easy to walk into that pro shop, look at a wall. You might go from 1/8 of an inch aperture and all the way up to 5/16. And you go, okay, give me that middle one, without really thinking about it. For my whitetail setup, I like to choose the biggest peep sight I can get away with for a couple of different reasons. When I get into the whitetail woods, I want that light to get to my eye. I hunt a lot of public land, I hunt a lot of pressured deer. I know that throughout the season, a lot of my shot opportunities are gonna happen in low light. I don't wanna limit myself with a smaller aperture that only lets in so much light. It doesn't seem like a really big consideration when you're shooting at targets in your yard. That can be a big consideration when you're out in the whitetail woods. Throughout the summer, we target shoot a lot, we get really good, then the season opens, and then we taper way off on our practice shooting. In addition to that, we start taking our bow into the woods, and we expose it to the rain and the sun, and then being in your truck for 3 days. Even as great as modern string materials are, you might still introduce a little bit of misalignment with your peep sight and not really notice it until you draw on that buck. And if I have a peep sight with an aperture that's like 5/16 of an inch, I can still aim just fine with that. I can still center my sight ring pretty well with it and make that shot. I don't have to let down, spin my peep. I don't get that panic mode. But if you go a little bit smaller and that peep sight rotates even a little bit, you get a little bit of misalignment in there, then it's panic time. So think about your aiming style. Think about the peep sight style you might want, and then really give a lot of thought to the actual aperture size of the peep sight that you're gonna choose. If you want more whitetail hunting advice, please listen to the Wired to Hunt podcast and the Wired to Hunt Foundation's podcast, and we'll give you everything you needed to hear about deer.